welcome back to the second part of this tutorial. In the first video we designed the solid model, and now we're going to go ahead and program it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to right click, I'm going to switch to my top view. If it doesn't line up, you can right click again and just click fit. It should get you there. I'm going to turn on my gnome again, and then you'll see our origin is a little low on the Y to compensate for these ears that are sticking out here. So I'm going to select my model. I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to go to translate, and I'm going to move my model down 1/2 inch. And make sure move is selected, not copy. We don't need a copy. And next thing you'll notice is our Z height is a little tall here. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it by -1 inch on the Z. Alright, perfect. I'm going to select the OK button. It's going to ask if we want to move the wireframes along with it, and we're just going to say yes, so everything lines up. I'm going to right click, go to Isometric View, and you can go to top view, and we can see that our y-axis is going to line up. So if you're going to program this to machine in a 3-axis mill, or however, I mean, you could probably only machine this in a mill or a live tool lathe or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and this is basically going to be your work coordinate system. So you're going to pick up your X and Y on the top left hand corner, and then your Z is just going to be, your tools are going to touch off on the top of the part. So let's go ahead and go to machine. Under mill, we're going to do a default, and then under the properties over here, we're going to select stock setup, and then under rectangular is going to be great for this, and we're just going to click add from boundary box, or however we want to do it. So for this, we could just type in the values. I'm going to click this top left hand corner. That's where our origin is going to be. So we got 6 inches by 4 inches, and we're going to do 2.125 or 2 1/8. And see, we're a little shy there. I forgot to compensate for the ears here. We need to add another 1/2 inch to both those dimensions. 4.5. Oh, full inch on the Y here. So we'll just go 5 inches. Sorry about that. So our stock is now set up, and this will allow us to do a couple things with our programming, and also for the simulation of the part being made. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go ahead and exit that. So our stock is set up now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Isometric View once more, and then fit. So first things first, we're going to do a face mill here. You don't need to select anything. It's going to go off of the stock we just set up. And then under tools, we're going to right click, create tool. We're going to select a face mill. We're going to do 2.9 by 3 inches. It doesn't look pretty, but I mean, you could design the tool that you have, but for this, I'm just going to use it like this. So I'm going to finish that. Under spindle speed, I'm going to go 3500, and then we're going to go 60. You could probably go a little bit faster than that if you're just cutting aluminum, but it'll be fine. Okay, then I'm going to go down to my cut parameters. Under cutting method, we're going to do a zigzag. Cross overlap, 25% is fine. Long overlap, 90%. Step over distance, 75%. And everything else looks okay. For Stock to leave on floors, we're just going to leave it at 0. We're just going to go right down to the part. And then for depth cuts, we don't need any depth cuts. Linking parameters, we have, I'm going to select everything to absolute. Retract 1/4 inch, that's fine. Feed plane, I'm going to go 0.1. Top stock is 0, depth is 0, and we're going to click OK. So now we have our toolpath here. It's going to come down well away from the part, going, and then exit well away from the part. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that toolpath, and that button is right here. It's the 3 squiggly lines. You can hide that. Alright. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm probably going to do a roughing cut. I'm going to use a 3D mill toolpath to do this. And I'm going to go to OptiRough. And then for avoidance, I'm going to just go ahead and highlight everything here. And then for stock to leave, for wall stock, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at 0.20 thou. Floor stock 0. That's fine. And then, so now we have toolpath control. We're going to do everything from the outside. We're going to compensate to the outside. And we're going to skip all pockets. And then for a tool, when I right click, I'm going to create another tool. Flat end mill. I'm going to use a 3/4 end mill here. And then overall length, I'm going to do 6 inches and 2 inches for my cutting length. And finish for that. For this, I'm going to do 7 grand. Could probably go pretty fast, but I'll just do a 60 IPM on the feed right here. And then under cut parameters, we're going to do climb. Step over distance, I'm just going to go 50%. Step down, we're going to do this in a couple passes. We're going to do 1 inch step downs, and then minimum tool radius 10%. That's fine. And for steep shallows, we're going to do maximum depth is basically going to be -2 inches. That's about all we need to do. Linking parameters, clearance plane, I'm just going to leave it at like a 1/2 inch here. It's in an absolute. And then we're going to do minimum distance. Part clearance, 150 thou, that's fine. That's just the rapid over the part. Linear entry exit 25 thou, that's fine. Keep tool down within 500% of the diameter, that's fine. Micro lift, we'll just leave it at never. Method, same lead in and lead out. All these other variables look pretty okay. And then for this, I'm just going to go machine entire pass for a fitting type. And then planes, that's like your work coordinate system. That's where we see our gnome right there. And then coolant, we can always turn the coolant on this. If MasterCAM doesn't crash on me right now. Okay, cool. Okay, now it's going to generate its toolpath. It looks pretty funky, but it should do the trick here. So I'm going to go ahead and hide all the toolpaths. The next thing I'm going to also do is I'm just going to turn off my nums. We know where we're at. I just want to clean up the screen a little bit. Alright, back in toolpaths. So we have our facing, and then we have an OptiRough. It's going to rough out a lot of the material. And next thing we could do is we could do our contour, and then clean up the outside, and then do the ID. So these outside, the tight radius is a 1/4 inch, so maximum tool we could use is a 1/2 inch. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna under 2D contour, I'm gonna select that, and then I'm in this 3D box here, and then we can pretty much just flip it upside down and make sure our arrow is going clockwise on the outside profile here. Click OK, tool, and I'm going to create a tool. I'm going to use a flat end mill. We're going to use the 1/2 inch, which is generally its default, and do a 2-inch cutting length here. Finish under this similar values. You could do 7 grand, 8 grand, 60 for the feed rate, plunge 25, retract 50. That's fine. We're not actually going to plunge any material. We can go a little bit faster than that, but that's going to be okay. For cut parameters, I'm going to turn on my wear so we could adjust our tool diameter or radius, however your machine's set up, just to make sure you get your measurements proper. That's going to be it for this. Depth cuts, we're not really cleaning up that much. We only have about 20 thou on the outside here. Tangent, that's fine. I'm going to do 55%, and same thing for arc radius. And then I'm going to copy those values to the exit, and then I'm also going to do an overlap of a 1/4 inch. And that's just to make sure that you don't have an entry or exit little nub on the side of your part. And multi-passes, that's not going to be necessary because we're only cleaning up 20 thou. Under linking parameters, again, I'm doing all absolutes here. Depth is 2 inches. It already got its number when we selected the bottom of that solid, which is kind of the nice thing about programming off of solids. It picks up the values for you. And I'm going to go ahead and so same thing, you can turn on your coolant. And then for planes, you always want it to be the top. So we're good there. So we can see we just have a nice little contour toolpath on the outside here. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and machine these pockets. Well, we're going to drill, and then we're going to use the drill for entry points on our tool to plunge into, and then mill our slots. So let's go ahead and drill, and for that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to expand the menu down here. I'm going to select drill, and I'm going to select our holes, and then I'm going to select the arc here in a way where it is going to select the center of the radius there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. For tool, I'm going to create tool. I'm going to select a drill. It's going to be a 1/2 inch drill. Overall length, let's do 4 inches here. Cutting length 2 inches. And then I'm going to click finish. For this, I'm going to spin it at 1500, and we're going to go in at 25 IPM. We're going to do pec drilling. We're going to do 200 pecs. And then for linking parameters, for depth, we're going to go ahead and do absolutely. And then clearance is going to be absolute. And we're going to set that to 25 thou. Retract is going to be set to 100. Top of stock, we're going to select the top of our hole here. Just -1. And then I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to backplot this one. See, I don't want it to start pecking in the air there. So we're going to go here. We're going to go, let's select our retract. And we'll set that to -0.9, 100 above the hole geometry. And we'll run that back. So it should go up, wrap it over, come down, then start its pec cycle between holes. And we're just doing that to clear this boss in the center of the solid here. So next thing I want to do is I want to mill out these pockets. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pocket toolpath here. I'm going to select the outline on these pockets. I'm going to select OK. And then for tool, I'm going to create tool. I'm going to use a 3/8, and for cutting length 1.5 inches. Finish. Yes, perfect. I'm gonna go 8 grand on that, and then 60 IPM. Cut parameters, we're gonna leave this at 0, 0. Roughing, we're gonna do a parallel spiral. Entry motion is going to be off. Finishing 10 thou, and we're going to turn on wear for compensation. And for depth cuts, we are going to do 0.55 and 0, since we're going to break through. For breakthrough, let's just go ahead and do 50 thou, just to make sure that we get through the part. Parameters, retract, absolute, feed plane, feed plane. So feed plane, I'm going to put as -0.9, just so we don't start cutting air. Top of stock, we're also going to select the geometry is 1 inch, or -1 inch. And then for lead in, lead out, we're going to use entry and exit point. And entry motion, we're going to leave that. Okay. So let's hide our drill toolpath. See what's going on here. So what I actually want to do is I'm going to go to wireframe for point position, and I want to click some points here. the center of the radius. I'm going to click OK. And then under geometry, I'm going to add, we're going to go into wireframe options here. And I'm going to select these points. Click OK. I'm going to select these 2 points and drag them to the top. And that's just to make sure our tool plunges on those points rather than just into material, because we want our tool to plunge where there's no material. So that's a good way of doing it. So if we do our back plot, we should see our tool plunge near those points, and perfect. And then it's also going to do its finish pass right there. All right. Perfect. And now I'm going to click my toolpath group, and I'm going to hide. Well, I'm going to turn them on, and then I'm going to hide all the tools. So far we have, we're facing it, we're roughing out a lot of the material. We're doing our outside profile. We drilled these holes, and we took care of our pockets here. And the roughing also cleaned out this hole, but it did leave 20 thou extra material, so the ID's probably about 40 thou too small. So say we have a tight tolerance here. What we're going to do is we're going to use a bore head to clean that out. To do that, it's just another under toolpaths. It's going to be a drill cycle, and we're going to select our hole there, 1.5. And for tool, we're going to right click, we're going to create tool. And then under our drills, we have bore. I'm going to select that. And our bore head is going to be 1.5 inches. These you're going to be using an adjustable bore head, so you'll just have to dial that in. Finish. For boring, we're going to go pretty slow. Spindle speed 100, and then probably going to use a feed rate of 1. We have a single point tool. Doing the inside, this is probably going to leave it pretty clean. So cut parameters, we're going to go to fine bore with a shift on the end, and we're going to leave it at 0.1. So that's going to be your I or J value, or some machines it posted out as Q. So you'll have to figure out which direction you want your bore to shift before retracting out of the hole. You'll have to figure that out for yourselves. And make sure your bore's clocked in right when you load it into the machine. For hole depth, we already know that it's 2 inches, but we want to break through it a little bit, so we're going to go negative 2.05, so 50 thou below, and retract is 0.1 absolute. Top of stock is 0. Everything else is pretty good here, so select OK, and then you'll see it's just a straight line down. It's gonna take a while for that bore head to make it through, but depending on the tolerance that you're trying to achieve, you could end mill it or It just depends on the circumstances, but for this we'll just do the fine bore. And then for the next thing that we can do is we could do our 3D surfacing here. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to use flow line. And let's start with this front surface. For check surfaces, I'm just going to select the top here and click OK. We need to create a tool. We need to create a ball end mill. We could use a 1/2 inch ball end mill. That'll work great. Surface retract 25 thou, feed plane. It's incremental, so it knows where the surface is. It's just going to start 100 thou above that. And then for finish flow line distance, 10 thou is it's going to take forever to machine that. So just for this lesson, we'll do 100 thou. Step over essentially, and click OK on that. And I don't want it to cut like this, so I'm gonna change my cut direction. So it's gonna start from the side of the part and work its way to the center, which is exactly what I want. So that's perfect. We're gonna click OK. I'm gonna go ahead and click OK on that, so it's gonna be fine. So it's got a couple of random retracts. It's just something it does. I don't fully understand why, but it always does it when it's getting close to the edge, just so it could start just so the entry or something like that. I'm not exactly sure why it does retracts on the edge, but it's just something that it does. And then I'm also going to just click that. I'm going to do Control C, Control V. Sorry. Select that last toolpath that we did. Control C, Control V. Doesn't seem to want to work here. Interesting. It's not exactly copying and pasting there. So what we did wasn't too complicated anyways. So we'll just go ahead and do it again. Could be my software. I'm not exactly sure. I just got the new version. So I click flow line again, and this time we're gonna set the direction. So I want it to machine from the outside in. So we're just gonna click step direction, and then it'll work the outside in. And for check surfaces, I'm gonna select the top once again. Select OK. We have our 1/2 inch end mill. I'm gonna do 8 grand by 60. And that's actually something I need to go back and do over again on the last operation I did. Feed plane. Everything here seems to be the same as the last flow line that we did. So I'm going to click OK. And then on the parameters of the first one, I'm going to go back to toolpath, and then I'm going to set it to 8 grand. At 60 IPM. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that. So let's go ahead and click verify and see how this thing machines and see if we missed anything. And then we can go back and add anything that we missed. All right, so this is your verify button right here. Let's go ahead and click that. And we'll see how it programs, or see how it would machine. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to my isometric view. I'm going to zoom out a bit here, and then I'm going to set this to performance mode, and we'll kind of slow it down so we can watch it. So it did, so it faced super duper fast, and now it's doing the OptiRough. So it starts with the bore, and now we're going to work the rest of the material off here. And it cleans up. So remember we've set it to two 1-inch passes, and then so it looks like it machined everything pretty good. I set this to performance just so it wouldn't bog down so much. So you could see that we do have quite the scallop here. So if you were actually going to make this, you might want to tighten up that step over. And we have our slots, we have our holes. Everything looks pretty much like it's ready to post out and take over to the machine. So thanks for watching, and keep on learning.